Hey everyone, going to look at some Canadian tickers here in the marijuana sector, and before I get into it, if you have not seen the 2-hour webinar that I did last weekend, head on over to my YouTube channel and check it out. I feel that anybody investing or trading in this sector, there's a lot of good information there that everybody needs to be made aware of and can only benefit going forward from here. So we're going to be looking at SPRWF, SPLIF, ATTBF, QRSRF, which is Tinley Beverage, and then NXTTF, which is Namaste Technologies. So starting off with SPRWF, so we've had a very nice run over the past few months, and we've gone about 200-300% on the way to the upside, and we've set nice bases of support, consolidating along the way, and then we definitely hit a top, and we saw a very clear pullback, and the red flag for the pullback, first off, was losing the 10-day moving average support. So you can see this entire uptrend, we were grinding against the 10-day support, heading to higher highs, but holding that support every time we tested it. The more you see a moving average support tested, the more clear it is once that level is lost, that is a clear bearish indication. So we bounced off of it one last time, then we lost it, and it started acting as resistance, and we very quickly pulled back from 105 all the way down to 76 cents, essentially a 30% drop in 4 days once that 10-day moving average support was lost. And what stands out is the increasing bearish volume on that move to the downside. But the bulls did recover. This is a bullish reversal candlestick with the lower wick showing the bulls buying the dip, and then it followed up with a big green candlestick, pretty decent volume, and regaining the middle Bollinger Band, and then some follow through. And since then, we've been establishing some higher lows. So key support from here is 90 cents, and then up at 93.5. And you can see we're getting very tight. Resistance is 108. 108's a little double top there. And the range of the past few days, even though volume's been fairly decent, we've been seeing, let's see here, we've got 130,000 shares, about $100,000, $120,000 traded. So not a ton of volume. You look at some of the other U.S. names, and they'll have millions of dollars traded. So SPRWF is not seeing that kind of liquidity, but it's a very tight range right now where the range, we have $1 support, and we keep closing above that psychological level, so that is a good sign for the bulls, but we need to see a break of 108 to be headed back towards the high of 121. If we see an increase in bear volume and a break of 90 cents, we're going to be headed back down to 766. So the tighter it gets, the closer we get to a break, and I would say we're going to get a clear break within the next 2 days. So certainly this week, we would expect a clear move up over 108 or a clear bear break down towards 90 cents and potentially below. The weekly time frame, you can see that pullback, but the bulls bought the dip. Anytime you see a long lower wick, it shows the bulls loading, and now we're tightening up after the high was hit, the low of the pullback, tighter and tighter on the weekly, and just waiting for that clear break, and again, it should come fairly soon. SPLIF, which is Nutritional High International Inc., and with these Canadian names, a bunch of them are dual listed, and the tickers can be a little difficult to find, but these were what I found from being requested. So there's some red flags in terms of lack of volume. We have days where literally not a share was traded back in September. Obviously, that has changed since we've got some attention, but still, even here, we have a day, October 14th, where less than $4,000 are traded. That's a huge red flag. You need liquidity to be able to trade these stocks, and if I can come in here and account for the entire volume in a day as one sole little retail trader, that is a huge red flag. So I won't play anything that doesn't have greater than $100,000 average volume per day, and it really makes trading harder is essentially what happens, a wider bid and ask spread, and you want to have nice high volume and high liquidity for trading. So same example here, the 10-day moving average support holding, and then it was lost and then acted as resistance, and now we're seeing further downside on a big spike in bear volume. So yet again, we have days here where we've got less than $15,000 traded pretty much 3 days in a row. That's a big red flag. That's not good for trading. So we lost the 10-day moving average support. That's 17-cent resistance, rejected from it. Now we lost the middle Bollinger Band support. We're looking at 12 cents, 10 cents, and then down here to 8 cents as supports. But the bears are in control, and the spike of volume certainly shows that. The bearish MACD cross occurred, and on the weekly time frame, bearish reversal candlestick last week, Now we're losing the upper Bollinger Band support, so we were in breakout mode, and when you lose the upper Bollinger Band support on consolidation, you are no longer in breakout mode, and you can expect further downside is coming. So after 12 cents, we're looking at 10 cents, and we can see the 10-week moving average support is 9 cents. That held a couple times back in early October, but I do realize that the volume here is so low, and maybe it's not that low on the Canadian side. Maybe the Canadian ticker has a lot more volume. That could be the case, and a couple of these other names we're going to be looking at here are huge red flags in terms of their United States tickers, but maybe that Canadian volume is showing up. So ATTBF, really nice run to the upside, and this one certainly familiar as we were in a trading chat room back in 2014, and a friend of ours, one of the members of the chat rooms, took 100 grand up over $1 million in ATTBF. And that was quite the run to over $2. But obviously we pulled back, so that's a red flag in the sense that we were up at $2. Let's look at this chart. And anybody staying long in ATTBF was absolutely crushed. We went from 278, and that's where all the money was made. And then anybody holding over the next 2.5 years, we dropped down to 2 cents. So you do the math, $2.78 to 2 cents. Everybody's writing that off as a complete loss. And even now, we could still move all the way up to $1, and that's still going to have bag holders back here. So huge red flag anytime you see a chart that has given back 95+% of the gains from 2014. And that's the case for ATTBF. So that's a huge red flag. That shows me dilution. It shows me likely reverse splits, and it shows me convertible debt. But either way, we are seeing a nice move if you're just trading. Again, trading, not investing. For the past 2 months, we've seen nice higher lows and higher highs, but same thing. Losing the 10-day moving average support was red flag number 1. Look at the action since we lost the 10-day moving average support. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red days in a row. The bulls did buy the dip today off of 10 cents. There's that psychological support. 1 cent, 10 cent, $1, $10, $100. All of those are strong psychological support and resistance levels. So we bounced off 10 cents. Bulls now need to break the lower high pattern on the daily time frame. We need to break 13.6 and head back up towards 18 cents, which is a little bit of a double top at the high on this move. But again, for any name you're playing, look back at 2014, and if the chart looks like this, you know without a doubt this chart is for trading, and absolutely do you not want to put your money in a stock that has done this over the past 2-3 years. So now we've got QRSF, and this is a huge red flag for liquidity, same thing. So I don't know if the Canadian name has a lot more money trading in it. That may be the case, and that may be fine. But this US ticker, QRSF, I would not be trading it. We have days with 17,000 shares traded, which at 20 cents is what? Under $4,000. So huge red flags again in that regard. But again, let me know. Maybe Canadian names have a lot more volume and a lot more tradability. But here we have gaps. It's a lot harder to chart because of the lack of liquidity and price action and these gaps. So support is down at 27 cents. And although we dipped below it today, we did close above it. So we're maintaining the support line. But we can see clear lower highs from topping out. And we topped out at the high up here of 369 and then 3319. So clearly setting some lower highs. And if we close below 27 cents, I'm looking down at 22.6 cents or 226 cents as the next support level. So red flag in terms of volume. Certainly don't want to be playing this on the US side. And what these Canadian tickers are showing is more profit-taking than the U.S. tickers. The U.S. has the election momentum, and this is essentially the last week before that event. And I definitely think the spike in the U.S. names is translating into interest in the Canadian names. Obviously, the Canadian legal environment is attracting a lot of attention. But I do think that these Canadian names are going to consolidate and give back some of those profits a lot quicker than the U.S. stocks that still have that momentum leading up into the election. And that's what we're seeing on a lot of names. And let's just go through the line real quick. TWMJF. So they recovered a bit. They're holding that middle Bollinger Band. OGRMF tightening up. And then you look at the U.S. stocks like GRNH. So they are pretty similar. The sectors are trading very similar. And I do expect a sell the news type event. I'm going to be going over the polls this weekend for the U.S. states and getting as up-to-date as we can heading into the votes. But I am expecting at this point a sell the news event next week after the results come in, and we'll see if that translates into a sell the news event in Canadian tickers. And if it does, that's an entry opportunity, in my opinion, for the longer term, good looking names. And again, you need to be reading the financials if you're going long in these tickers. And again, the webinar will give some tips on what to look for. So one more here, we got NXTTF, same thing with volume, but again, maybe on the Canadian side, volume's a lot more significant. I need at least $100,000 every day on average to be trading in order for me to be comfortable. And here we've got less than 2,000 shares traded, less than $600 traded on October 13th. So huge red flag in the US name. And I can't find these tickers on multiple charting services for their Canadian tickers names, so doing the best I can. But we've got support down here at 19.2. That's the low we've seen on the pullback, and if we break that, we're looking down. Next level I would look at is 18.2, and then down to 13.5. So there's big time movement to the downside. We saw a great move to the upside on very low volume, insignificant volume here on the US side of things. But we need to see a base of support established and then movement back to the upside. And this is just the start of the run. You can see huge pullback. And here's a red flag where we were all the way up at $2, and now we're down at 90% loss, down at 20 cents. So need to see the financials, need to see what the dilution is like. Convertible debt, it affects these Canadian names just like it does the US names. And share structure and debt structure are the number one important thing when looking for a stock. The business plan, their products, they are not as important as the share structure and debt structure. So that's what I've got for these Canadian names, and next videos I'm going to choose the names that have nice liquidity, and eventually I'm going to start digging into these financials. It's going to take a really long time to do that, but in order to figure out which of these investments are going to be legitimate and safer to stick our money in and let it sit there, definitely need to read these financials in depth. So I appreciate you watching. Again, that webinar, really think it should be watched if you are in this sector. I appreciate you watching this video, and I will be back again before the end of the week. Not necessarily with these tickers, but going to stick with doing a Canadian video and a US video to separate those tickers and compare how the sectors are correlating to each other. So I'll see you in a bit. Have a great night.